to consider is, does your child have a diagnosed learning difference? If so, you'll want to make sure that the schools on your list have the resources that are going to help your child understand how to learn best. Here at Flint Hill, we have a nationally recognized learning center, and we work with students from the earliest years in lower school through upper school to develop tools together that help them. And it's not just to handle the rigors of our program, but to really excel. Some other questions to ask about the curriculum is about the school's commitment to intentionality, consistency, and involvement of the entire community. So this goes back to that idea of faculty across the division being trained to be consistent in their approach, and also how much the school supports professional development. So faculty are also trained in the most current practices and the ways to be most successful and taking the neuroscience of learning into account to be sure that they're teaching in the way that students learn. Another aspect, I mentioned this a little bit earlier, but getting to know the community. So academics are important. They really are, but so are the people. So are the people that your child's going to be surrounded by. So are the people that you're going to be surrounded by. So understanding a school's community and culture for students, for the teachers, for the parents is really a critical step. And also looking to see if you're somebody, a family that really wants to be engaged, what are the opportunities for the whole family to get engaged? Here at Flint Hill, if one family member's enrolled, then everyone's a Husky, and we really appreciate having the whole family and involved in our community, which is typically what happens. So you may also, about that community, back to the teachers a little bit, is you may want to ask the school what they look for in prospective faculty. What do the teachers look like that they're bringing into their community? What leadership or extracurricular opportunities are available for students? How parents can get involved, and then determine which schools have community members, students, teachers, and administrators that your child is best likely to connect. Where are they going to be the most comfortable, most able to be themselves, which is so important to us here at Flint Hill. And also for you, the parents, where can you be yourself? Where are you going to feel comfortable showing up to gatherings and different events? At Flint Hill, I've really realized how important this is, as several times from parents, we've heard how much joy they feel when they drop their kids off here, because they know that their kids have found their community, they found their people, and the parents have too. And it's just a real thorough sense of community. We are, Flint Hill as a community is also often described as inventive, curious, courageous, supportive, inclusive, intentional, comes up a lot. And so all of these factors that lead to a school's ethos and personality are questions that you might want to ask a school. A really great question to ask a division director at a school that you might be considering, or an admissions officer, is, if your school were a person, how would you describe their personality? And they should be able to give you some descriptions like I did. And you can see, is my child going to get along with that school? If you think about that school as a person. So, of course, safety, we've learned now than more than ever how paramount safety really is. And so it's always been a priority for families. It has taken on a whole new meaning during the pandemic. So as you research your school options, learn about their sick day, their absence policies, student and employee screening protocols, hand washing, social distancing. This all seems second nature to us now. Mask policy, facility cleaning procedures. Schools should really be prepared to partner with parents to also support students who might be feeling anxious or fearful about the well-being of their family and friends, or for some, the transition back to in-person environments if the child's been learning mostly virtually for a year or two at this point. Also, a flexibility. Are they agile? Can they go the distance? Excuse the pun, but in some ways I do mean distance learning. Certainly, we're hopeful that we're continuing to do the in-person stuff, and while we're hopeful next year won't require the flexibility that the last 2 years have required. How do the schools you're considering respond to unknowns? Are they flexible and nimble? A lot of times private institutions are, because they're smaller, so it's easier to be nimble and move around and make changes as needed, and to be really intentional about those changes. So how do teachers provide instruction, create and track assignments, and communicate educational progress? Or it might be other questions to ask while you're considering the learning environment at a school. So then the next step, you've thought about all of these different things that I've mentioned. And so the next step is, to keep engaging with the schools. Make your list, check it twice. If you're still figuring out what schools you want on your list, of course, Google. Also, the National Association of Independent Schools, the Virginia Association of Independent Schools, the Association of Independent Schools in Greater Washington, AISGW, is another great resource. Niche.com can be a great resource. So those are, of course, asking friends and family, engaging your community. Where do they go to school? How has their experience been? Of course, inquire with the admission office. Once you inquire with the admission office and start the conversation, like most every person here has, that you're really going to start to be able to ask your own questions and just continue to learn more about them. And they're also going to have you on their radar as well, to be able to help you anticipate the things that you don't even know to ask or to know or to be tracking yet. Attending events is another great option, whether virtual or in person. All of you have completed that step because you're here. I know that some of you have been to some of our events before, so that's wonderful. We're also having on-campus events again this year. I think that there's some other schools doing that. So if you have the opportunity to come to an on-campus event and just get that much better of a feel for the institution. Schedule phone or virtual meetings, tours. These are all options on our admission team page. You just click a link and schedule any of these interactions with us. And a lot of other schools might have links or people that you can reach out to get these set up. Social media is another great way to engage, to see inside a school's walls without, if you're not quite ready to visit campus yet. We're very active on social media. All of our accounts are linked at the bottom of our homepage. And so we've done a Tuesday Tips, as I've referenced earlier, that's been done specifically by our office on topics that we think are most important to prospective families. And then we're also posting things about what our students are doing in the classroom, any of the myriad of achievements that our students have made. We're posting on social media to share that. Of course, call the school and ask to be connected with current families. If you have a school that pops up on your list and you don't have a friend or a family member to ask about it, call the school and ask. A lot of times they will be able to connect you with a current parent or with a student perhaps around the age or with a similar interest as your child, so that you can ask a current parent, what's it really like there? And you can hear that straight from them. And so the next step, of course, is if you become serious about a school and you think this is a school where you can see yourself and you can see your family, then apply. Submit an application. Our application forms online. Ours opened September 1. And I think a lot of schools did open theirs, or theirs is open. And this really gets you on the radar of the admission process. And this is what is really going to help your family to not miss anything before any really important deadlines, because admission teams, our admission team is certainly here to walk you through the process. And that's a perfect segue to turn it over to Lauren, who is going to walk you through our application process, and also talk generally about independent school application processes, because they don't vary too much. There's a few nuances. So Lauren, I will turn it over to you.
Unmute myself. Thank you so much, Jennifer, and thanks for sticking with us. I will be discussing the application process. Generally speaking, I think ours mirrors a lot of our peer schools, certainly independent schools in the area, and really around the country. So here at Flint Hill, we really want to emphasize that it is really more than a process. So it's a potential start to a partnership, right? That's one of the things that I think Jennifer and I love so much about this work that we do. We get to know families, and when we ask them to really bring their authentic selves to the process, so we can get to know the real them, right? So if it's the right fit school for your child, then your child will be admitted. Okay, we'll know that it's a good fit on both kind of ends of the spectrum, right? So rest assured in that, so that can take some pressure off of you and your child and the process, because it can be intimidating, although it will prepare you well for what you'll experience when your child then applies to college, right? That's what I always tell families. So deadlines are very important in our line of work. Our deadline here at Flint Hill, which again is very similar to a lot of independent schools out there, is late January. Ours this year is January 21st, 2022. So that seems far away, right? But as we know, the school year gets started, things get crazy. The holidays come up, and then all of a sudden it's late January. So the very first step to complete is the application form. At Flint Hill, ours takes about 20 minutes to complete, so pretty quick. And once you submit the application form, then you will have access to our community portal, which is called the Husky Hub. And that's where you will be able to work through the required supplemental documents. Those can be submitted through the portal. Recommendations and transcripts can be requested. Okay, so we'll start with transcripts. We recommend that families request them in November. You don't want to necessarily do it too soon. Most students don't have grades that are coming out earlier than kind of the midpoint in the semester, first quarter. So you can wait a little bit on that request. Right now, we would be accepting unofficial transcripts from the student's previous year, or maybe if they have anything like a progress report. So you're welcome to email those to us or any school. I'm sure would accept them similarly. Teacher recommendations here at Flint Hill, we require recommendations from the current year teacher for lower school students, okay? And then the current year's math and English teachers for middle and upper school applicants. This year and last year, many schools have really customized their recommendation forms to take into consideration the different learning formats that our students experienced over the last, 18 months, almost, I guess about 18 months at this point, because we know that's teachers are going to be able to speak to students' experiences in the classroom and performance differently, whether they had them in person versus virtually. So those relationships would look a little bit different. So don't be worried if your child has been learning virtually for quite a bit of that last time block that I mentioned, because there's certainly a way to address that on the form. Also, if you're concerned that your child's teachers may or may not know your child super well for various reasons, we're happy to, work through that with you at Flint Hill. And, we accept supplemental recommendation forms, which a lot of other schools do as well. So again, don't put too much stock into the fact that your student may not feel uber comfortable with the teacher just yet, or may not have had the best relationship. Certainly, we can work through some of those challenges. All right, because we see that all the time. Writing sample is required for student applicants for middle school and upper school. So, here at Flint Hill, we just want to see a sample of your child's writing. So usually from a humanities class, an English or history class. If there is an evaluative component from a teacher there, all the better to see how your child's writing was evaluated. If not, again, given all the different learning formats this year, we can be flexible there. Questionnaires, we have one questionnaire required of the candidate for middle school, and then parent questionnaires required for applicants in lower, middle, and upper. So, junior kindergarten through 12th grade here at Flint Hill. All right, so that's really, those are comprised of short answer questions, questions about personality, educational experiences, interests, things like that we will then, use to put some context to the interview. Okay. Standardized testing. This has been kind of a hot topic over the last couple of years, especially during the pandemic, with some challenges with access, availability. Here at Flint Hill, which again probably looks similar to many schools, we do require the Gazelle observation for our applicants in grades JK through 2 for lower school. For grades 3 to 6, we don't require standardized testing, but do ask or recommend that you submit anything that your child has taken. So the WISC, any SOLs, the ISEE or ERBs. So you can submit those, but they are not required. So you don't need to actively go out and pursue the test. For grades 7 through 12, so middle and upper school, we are test optional. So a majority of our candidates will demonstrate their preparedness for the Flint Hill academic experience through the other application requirements. There might be a small population of students where we would ask for some testing, but we want, again, the families to take that off of their plate because it does require time, energy, and money, and usually we have enough to go off of for the committee evaluation because they've demonstrated their preparedness in other ways. Any other assessments or standardized testing that your child has experienced, we will gladly accept as part of the process. Okay, lastly, interviews. So an interview really provides an opportunity for parents and students to ask questions about our school community, and really gives us the opportunity to learn more about your family. We really, here at Flint Hill, which again, I think is pretty standard in independent schools, want to personalize this experience and make it, move towards a partnership and not just have it be a process and a checklist that you need to go down. Okay. Interviews here at Flint Hill can be scheduled through that community portal, the Husky Hub, as I previously mentioned. So there are links to each admission officer's calendar. So it's very easy to navigate, get that on the calendar soon, even if the interview isn't for, a couple weeks or a month. You want to go ahead and schedule that because sometimes the families wait too long with any of our required materials. You can run into scheduling conflicts and as you're approaching the deadline. Okay. So that is a good segue for my next and I think final point is just to, get on the ball, apply early. Do those things that you have control over, especially the interview, the questionnaires, submitting the application form, sending those requests to teachers when it makes sense. So that early November timeframe, not waiting until right before the winter holidays or January. So it gives them ample time to really thoughtfully complete those forms. Here at Flint Hill, Jennifer mentioned, we follow the AISGW, which is the Association of Independent Schools in the Greater Washington area, their general timeline. And you'll see most independent schools in this area follow similar timelines. So really now is the time to start to submit that application form, schedule interviews, schedule any testing that might be required for your students. And again, it will benefit you and certainly us in the long run. Families that do wait to move on some of these pieces until closer to the deadline may run into challenges with scheduling conflicts with their admission officer or even acquiring documents from their child's school. Okay. Here at Flint Hill, our financial aid application deadline is January 25th. So a couple days after the admission application deadline, the financial aid application opens on November 1st. So again, ample time. And I can tell you here, the experience at Flint Hill, while it's easy to navigate, it is a little bit of a process. With that application, not as quick and easy as the admission application. So definitely allow yourself plenty of time to complete and submit the financial aid deadline application. Excuse me. So decisions, the big decision day. The decision, as Jennifer mentioned, again, following that AISGW timeframe, we will release decisions here at Flint Hill that first Friday in March, which is, the date that is given to us as a school, as a member school. This year, it's March 4th, I believe. And so in between the time that you submit your application by January 21st and that March 4th timeline, we will meet as an admission committee and review all applications, maybe circle back with any families if there are additional questions we have about your child, and then decisions will be released then. Okay, and we release decisions electronically here at Flint Hill, which I think is pretty standard these days. I don't think anyone wants to spend the time or money to send things through the mail anymore. And then really the spring and summer is focused on welcoming families to our community, that community building, really educating you all on the transition, what you need to prepare for, what your child needs to prepare for. So that's kind of a quick and dirty overview of our application process. Jennifer, I think I'll turn it back over to you for next.
Yeah, absolutely, Lauren. Thank you very much. That was perfect. Oh, I went a little too far back. Okay, next steps with Flint Hill. So as I mentioned, we have so many different ways to engage with us. Go to flinthill.org /visit campus, and you'll see links to schedule a phone consultation with our officers, to schedule a virtual meeting, to schedule a campus tours. Tours of campus are open. We are requiring anybody that comes to campus to be vaccinated. So make sure that you're prepared to show that documentation, but please do come tour our campus. Check us out on social media, come to another campus event. So there's a lot of different ways to engage and learn more. And as Lauren mentioned, we love learning more about you. So please come introduce yourself and help us get to know your family better. And we'll certainly help you get to know Flint Hill better. So that concludes our presentation. I see that we have some really good questions that have come into chat. So we can turn to some of those now. If you have additional questions, please just feel free to send them in there. So I see one, Lauren, thank you so much for answering some of those directly in the chat when it's a pretty quick, straightforward yes or no. In terms of the curriculum and assessments for lower school, there are, in terms of tracking students' progress, there's a different assessment protocol for each grade level, and those are shared with parents every semester. We also have the Hopes and Dreams conferences between the parents and the teachers, where parents are invited to bring up anything that they're interested in learning about how school is going, and also share their hopes and their dreams. That's the name of the conference for their children. The teachers also use that time to share with the parents how the student is doing. For lower school, our progress reports are in narrative format, and being a student-directed school, they are in student-focused school, they are directed directly to the child. We also use something called Seesaw. And so what Seesaw does is both the teacher and the child from their classroom post things throughout the day. yeah, I have a child in junior kindergarten, another one in first grade, and I must have gotten about 12 notifications, which you can control whether they're on and or off, whether they're coming to your email or your phone, about what was going on in the classroom. When I see my children at the end of the day, and same for any parent here, you know what they did, you know what to ask questions about. You can dive a little bit deeper than how was your day and get the good response. You can actually say, oh, I see that thing that you did, tell me about your approach to that, and really get some answers. So we're all about visible learning here. So there's a lot of opportunities to actually come in and see what is happening in the classroom, both electronically and then when possible, also in person.
Jennifer, I'll jump in if you don't mind. There was a question about tips for kids nervous about interviewing. I think that, yes, that makes a lot of sense. I know I would have been if I were in those shoes in middle school or rising high schooler. I think we really view the interview as a conversation. I think we all want the students to feel at ease. There's no prep that's required. I know some schools, might talk to, K-8 independent schools might talk a little bit about how to prepare for an interview. We don't really encourage any preparation. We want the students to come in, be themselves, and just be prepared to share about their interests. I know that's easier for some students than others, but I would say just, really reinforce that it's a conversation. Personally, when I interview students, I give them a quick overview of kind of what we'll discuss. So it's their previous academic experiences and interest in Flint Hill. So what sparked their interest in us. Then we go through their academic classes, talk about classes they like, talk about classes that may be super challenging or not their favorite for a variety of reasons. And then we'll talk about extracurriculars and family and friendships. So again, we really view it as a conversation, and also understand that students may be nervous. And while that is a piece of the puzzle here and part of the complete application package and evaluation, I don't think that I wouldn't place too much emphasis on the interview in terms of the evaluative component.
Excellent. Thank you, Lauren. Yes, that's a great answer. And one other part that I'll add to that is don't over prepare them, right? A lot of times, parents want everything to go really well too. And, they certainly feel that from you. So give them the information they need, which is what Lauren just shared, but they don't have to practice. They don't have to wear their fancy outfit. They don't have to, just show up as themselves. That's what we want. And we're just going to chat as Lauren said. Lauren, do you want to take do you want to answer the AP question or do you want me to?
Yes, I can. And I would to finish up on interviews, the youngest age. So we require student interviews for middle and upper school applicants. At the lower school, we're not going to interview a 5-year-old, even though that would be really, really fun.
I'd love that. We might want to start thinking about that.
Yeah. And then, of course, it is possible to have an interpreter or translator during an interview. We would welcome that. Okay. I think that covers.
And one other thing I'll mention before we move on is for the younger ones, we do the Gazelle, as Lauren mentioned earlier. So they do come to campus, and that's also don't prepare them at all. Tell them they're going to go have a play date with Miss Holly, and that's that Miss Holly really wants to play with them and get to know them. And then that's how you prepare them. And then they come and they meet Miss Holly, and some kids ask if they can come back the next day and see her again. So it's really, we want it to be a low pressure experience for everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Yes, we got a question about AP courses. A couple of years ago, some schools in this area moved in a direction, I'm sure it was a national trend as well, to remove AP curriculum or phase them out. Partly, I think, because, teachers with the AP curriculum, there is it's more structured, right? There are more standards that they have to cover, whereas in independent schools, I think part of the draw for many educators is all the autonomy in creating curriculum. So we did poll our community and kind of get a sense for how people were feeling about that, and found that students and parents alike really wanted to keep our AP offerings, and so did teachers. There is still a layer of autonomy there with the curriculum. There can be some flexibility in certainly resources that are used to teach to that curriculum, even though the test is standard for everyone. So at this time, we are still planning to offer them. Anything could change in the next couple of years, but we are still offering them. And the other piece is that I think with a lot of these other schools, they're finding that their students are still taking the AP exams because they want to get that college credit. So that's something that they're doing on their own time, is studying for these exams. And so when you look at kind of reducing workload and stress for high school students who are oftentimes already feeling, overworked, that's an additional responsibility placed on them. Whereas when you have the AP offerings at your school, that test prep is really embedded into the class, right? And we know that a lot of college applicants are interested in perhaps getting credit for college level courses that they've taken in high school. So that's the second piece of it. I think, does that cover it, Jennifer?
Yeah, that was a great response. Absolutely. And in terms of our vaccination policy currently for visitors, right now we are requiring that everyone that comes to campus is vaccinated. Unfortunately, and it pains us that this is the case, it really does, but unfortunately, that does make it not an option for anyone under 12 who can't get the vaccine yet. And this is really, if somebody is under the age of 12, then they're likely going to be visiting parts of our campus to see what other kids under the age of 12 are doing on campus, which is introducing to unvaccinated communities. And of course, our number one priority is keeping our kids and our community safe. So we'd love to get to know the children in other ways. We have some student-centered virtual events, virtual meetings, which they might not be as interested in, but connecting them with other students that they can, talk with in some other format. We're open to all the ways that we can connect everyone safely.
I think Jennifer touched on the Gazelle a little bit. Gazelles will be held virtually this year.
We breaking news.
Oh,
thank you so much, Lauren. Literally breaking news. We did find a way, because with the Gazelles, we found a great way last year to do it virtually, and it was the only option. We do find that it is a better experience for the students and also the assessor, Miss Holly, if they are in person. So we got approval from our director of nursing services, Mary Hart, who looks at all of this, and to bring the parent and the student straight into Dawn's office, who is a member of our team, see Miss Holly for the assessment, and then straight out of the building without crossing any communities, we did get approved. So that it can actually be in person now.
Wonderful. And in terms of, I think we have a question about what exactly those assessments look like. You can also Google the Gazelle. That's the first thing I did, even working in this office when my daughter applied a couple of years ago. Like, what is she going to be doing? As Jennifer mentioned, it's essentially a play date where they will draw and build blocks and jump up and down. So, I mean, there is absolutely no prep required, but you're welcome to Google the Gazelle, observational testing if you are interested in learning more about what that looks like. But again, it'll be probably what your child is doing every day.
Exactly. And it's developmental, so you can't really prepare for it and do better. It's going to be where it is. That'll just stress everyone out.
If you want to come visit school, okay. Come to a play production. Okay. That is a great question. Play or game, yeah, an athletic event, or I would imagine there might be different answers if it's an indoor activity versus outdoor.
That is a great question. And that's something I'll speak with our director of fine arts and athletics and director of nursing services, Mary Hart, to get an answer to that question. That's a really great question. I think if people are vaccinated, then that is going to be acceptable. Of course, if they're not vaccinated, it probably won't be. So we will have a transcript of the chat and can certainly circle back more on that. Okay, just reading through some of these great questions.
Yep, absolutely. As far as teacher recommendations, yep, we accept supplemental recommendations, and like I said, especially have been pretty flexible in working with families to do what makes the most sense based on the experiences the last couple of years, and have created an addendum for our recommendation letters where the teacher can explain, the learning format and environment.
Right, let's see.
Percentage of ninth grade. Yep, ninth grade is a very large entry point. This year if our kind of target, I would say, per grade level in the upper school is about 140 students. We may welcome 60, 65. It really depends on the school year, but it's, a large number, a little bit under kind of the 50%, but it's certainly our largest entry point.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's going to look like a 60-40, 60 coming from our 8th grade, 40% joining externally, pretty close to that. Yep, we do have school buses to take the students to and from school. So we do provide transportation services. We don't provide transportation services everywhere, but what we do is we, during the spring, early summer, we ask families their interest in transportation services, and then we set our routes accordingly to where the interest is. So as long as you live in a place where there is other students attending Flint Hill interested in transportation services, which is a lot of places in a 30-mile radius, then that can certainly work. Sometimes if we don't have a route going directly to where a family lives, then they'll drive to the bus stop, which is often shorter than driving to Flint Hill. So it's kind of a compromise, kind of meeting in the middle. Is there a limit to the number of new students? Absolutely. We do have capacity for every grade, and a lot of these grades, depending on the grade and the year, but in a lot of these grades, we do hit that, and then we go to what we call the wait pool, and then we'll typically have a group of families that are on the wait pool until a space opens.
There's a question about athletics for kids that may not be super competitive or like super competitive sports. Absolutely. We offer a wide variety of athletics here in both our middle and upper school programs. Some athletics are required in the middle school. It's embedded into the day, actually. So they, instead of going to gym, they will have athletics at the end of their day, and that will expose them to different sports that they may or may not want to continue in high school. In high school, we do also have an activity requirement, but there's a lot of flexibility in what that means. All of our sports teams, with the exception of football and swim and dive, have a JV level. Some programs like basketball even may have a freshman team. So those those programs would offer opportunities for student athletes to actively contribute without it, being highly competitive. They get more competitive as you move into the varsity level programs. We also offer fitness and conditioning classes that allows your child to learn more about being healthy and exercise, and there is a team building aspect to that program as well. So a lot of different ways to satisfy that credit requirement.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's the different levels at middle school. There's a lot of students that aren't competitive, and they come and then they're with other kids that aren't really into sports or into competitiveness. And then there's often ones that surprise us where they were absolutely certain that they weren't going to like it, and then they end up liking it. And I'll go back to like another enrollment question. I don't know if we answered this. My speaker went out for a minute, but same question about 7th grade in terms of new students versus returning students. That's about 50-50. So we each division increases in size, and so from lower school to middle school, we just opened this beautiful new middle school building last fall. If you haven't seen that yet, so our 7th and 8th graders have this big, gorgeous, modern building all to themselves. And so there is a natural increase in capacity from 6th to 7th. So we have about 50% coming up from our 6th grade, and then another 50% coming in from other schools.
Bus stops. There was a question about bus stops. I just checked. They haven't been updated on our website just yet. That information should be there soon, but I would also encourage you to reach out to an admission officer who could help you with that information in terms of finding out if there's a bus near you that would make sense for your family.
To answer the question about IEP students, yes, we have students, all types of learners here at Flint Hill. So in terms of whether we would be the best place for your student to thrive, I would recommend having a more in-depth conversation with an admission officer here, and we're glad to talk more about that. Okay, I know that we're a little past time. We want to make sure that we answer everyone's questions. Lower school gym, how often do they attend gym? Let me pull up that schedule quickly.
And I can answer what type and level of engagement are you seeking from parents? I think anything you're willing to give us. We are looking for strong partners in our parents, in our families. We are truly a family community. Whether all of your kids attend here or one, or so we want that high level of engagement, but also understand that folks are really busy. So we have a very active Parents Association board that hosts a lot of events throughout the year to really foster that engagement in our parent community. There are opportunities to be part of that board. So that's what I would say in terms of that engagement. But there is no expectation that you will give a certain amount of time to us. We love to see our families whenever they're willing to be here and support us in any way that they can.
Absolutely. And the answer to the 6th grade PE question, 6th graders have PE twice a week for an hour and 15 minutes twice a week.
6th grade and entry year. So, depending on capacity as the space availability, as Jennifer mentioned, we do accept applications for every grade level every year. So it just depends on the amount of space. 6th grade is not, a super large entry point, but we also welcome 6th graders, every year. So it just really depends on the number of spaces, and what the grade level capacity looks like. And that's standard for every grade.
Mm-hmm. I think next year we will have, for sixth grade, we should have a handful of spaces open. So we'll certainly be able to welcome some new sixth graders, and the ones that are new won't be the only ones that are new, because we'll be able to welcome a few next year. Okay, well, it's a lot of thank yous. Thank you so much for being here. We're so glad that you spent some time with us. We've really enjoyed hearing from you, and we are really excited to continue the dialogue. So we see this as just the beginning of a lot of really wonderful conversations. So thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you.